G'day, my fellow media collectors. I'm Troy, and this is the Comic Book Movie Collector's Guide. And today we have a look back on the superhero cinema releases of 2023 and see what was my best and worst of the year that was. So, what do you say we get into it? So, 2023 will probably go down to history in the media as the year that suffered from the dreaded superhero fatigue syndrome. Now, look, I don't personally subscribe to that theory and probably could go on a nice big old rant about it, but I won't in this video for the moment, maybe in another video later on. But anyway, we have been served up some pretty mediocre content this year with only a couple of standout movies that they really stood out head and shoulders above the rest of the crap we got. Now, of course, there is no way humanly possible for me to watch every bit of content that's out there that gets released over the course of a year. And as you can see by the list here, which, by the way, as far as I can tell, this is everything that I could find that was released during 2023. And it's a decent sized list. So, of course, I'm only going to give you my best and worst of what I actually got to watch this year. And that list looks more like this. And it's come down to 11 titles. So, what do you say we count them down from the worst all the way up to the best, starting with, yes, at number 11 is Shazam Fury of the Gods. Now, look, I don't want to say this was the worst film because, I mean, technically the film was not terrible. For me, why this is the bottom of the list is because it's the most disappointing movie of the year. And for me, sometimes something that's more disappointing than bad, it's just, this is why it's at the bottom. Because I love the first one. I did a review of the first one a couple of years ago, and I love that first movie. It's such a great movie. So my expectations were up here and they delivered down here. I mean, it's great to see Zachary Levi as Shazam again on screen. I think he's great as that character, but he got a poor story. And the villains, some of the most well, actually no, there is some more forgettable villains which we'll get to later on, but some forgettable villains with a nothing story that led to nothing. Why they never got onto Black Adam, that's probably because of The Rock and his stubbornness, but it there was a great opportunity to take the character further and they didn't take it anywhere. It was just a nothing movie, and that is what was disappointing about it, and that is why that's number 11. Number 10 for me is Batman The Doom That Came to Gotham. Now, I did a review of this not long ago, which a lot of you have seen and see my thoughts on it. If not, go back and check it out for a detailed look at it. But for me, look, I know a lot of people say they don't mind it and they actually enjoy it, and that is great. But for me personally, didn't resonate with me. I'm not, look, I'm not a big horror, Lovecrafty sort of guy. Just not my thing. That's all it is. It's just not my thing. For someone who's into that stuff, they'll probably love this movie to death. But for me personally, just wasn't my cup of tea. And it was okay in spots, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't resonate with me. Didn't hit home with me. Personally, I did feel like it could have been better. If I'm being like critical about it, but yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, these DC animated movies are some of the best out there, but for me, this one, it just missed the mark for me. Number 9 is Merry Little Batman. Now, this one, they're clearly going for maybe like a kid's classic Christmas movie for kids to watch with their parents and stuff at Christmas time, maybe to become one of those classics. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't think this is going to become a classic anytime soon. It is mediocre at best. It's definitely, with the animation, the script, and the story that's in there, it's definitely aimed at real little kids, maybe 5 and under. It's aimed at that type of stuff, and it's got this massive message all the way through, with this big positive message of you don't need superpowers or your fancy gadgets to be a superhero. It's all about what's on the inside, which we've seen before, especially in a lot of kids movies. um, and another thing for me, Luke Wilson as Batman, yeah, nah, yeah, it wasn't really great. um, it's definitely a story if it wasn't Batman, but Luke Wilson as Batman was just, yeah, it just, I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me. So that's why this is at number 9. Number 8 is The Marvels. Now, look, I'm going to say this. It wasn't as bad as the media makes out to be. And if you've watched it, you'll probably, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but it wasn't like super terrible. The first part of the movie was a bit of a cluster, shall we say, and then it kind of got a little better at the end. But I think you've also got to remember, this movie is made for me. This movie is made for young teenage girls, or girls, period. I went with my daughter. She thought it was great because it was aimed at her, not middle-aged men like myself. And who are the people out there complaining about it? Yeah, middle-aged men. So look, it definitely wasn't a movie made for me. So yeah, it didn't really resonate as me, and it wasn't as bad. The movie, I don't think, was as disastrous as what they say. But I think the key thing for me is two things. One, the story was a nothing story. It was a real, it just was a, yeah, it was just, the story wasn't great. And the villain, who was she? I bet you can't remember her name. I bet you can't even remember what she looks like. Yep. Speaking of forgettable villains this year, she is definitely at the top of the list because I can't remember. She was a nothing villain that really didn't perpetuate much at all, with a very little to no backstory of her getting hit on the head with a rock and then her going, I need to hurt her and stop her. That's pretty much her basic story. It's pretty bad. But yeah, like I said, this one wasn't made for me, but it wasn't as bad as what they said. So that's why that comes in at number 8. Number 7 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, this is a bit of a mixed bag for me because, one, you had a great villain, Jonathan Majors as Kang. His performance was great. I really felt like he sold the character. For me, I think that was good, but he wasn't written to be. I don't know. Look, it just didn't seem like he was written to be that dangerous because Ant-Man took him down, and yet we're supposed to have a movie where like the whole Avengers have together to stop Kang, but Ant-Man did it on his own. Not a real threatening villain in that sense. I just, I think for me that really missed the mark. Um, wasn't greatly written. It looked fantastic, as most of these Marvels do, except for one thing, and that was MODOK. And that was a big disappointment for me because I was like, oh, we get to see MODOK. That's fantastic up on screen. Can't wait to see. Oh, no. Yeah, that's a bit disappointing. And it was Yellow Jacket. The guy who played Yellow Jacket turned into MODOK. Yeah, okay. If that's the way we're going, that's the way we're going. But yeah, it didn't sit well with me. So that's why this is pretty much nearly at the middle of the range, and that's why this one comes in at number 7. Number 6 is The Flash. Now, this is another one that got absolutely panned out there. A lot of these have been. The media has just been so down on superhero movies this year, so it's been hard for any to sort of get ahead. Granted, look, for me, where's the problem lies with this? Like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the idea of the story. Mind you, we are getting a bit of that multiverse fatigue, though. I didn't mind it. It was fantastic to see Keaton as Batman again, which was great. That was the draw card. That's what got people with the bums on seats that did. Not that it seems like many people did see it, but that's the main reason. The story was okay. But I think for me, the thing that didn't sit well with most people, and it doesn't sit well with me, well, at least I'm assuming anyway, I'm really assuming here, is Ezra Miller as the Flash and having him carry this movie. Me personally, I'm not a fan of, not so much the actor. I know he's had his troubles, but it's more his interpretation of the Flash is definitely a different Flash than we've seen in any other real incarnation. This almost awkward, fumbling, just out of place uh, teen or guy in his early 20s, just he just seems to be a goof, and that's not really the Flash. The Flash is more witty and on top of things, and like he's a fun guy, but he's not like an idiot, and that's kind of the way it gets portrayed. You know what I mean? And yeah, for me, that's probably the thing that doesn't sit well with me is his interpretation of the Flash. So that, but overall, I like seeing all the other stuff that was in the movie. So that's why it's at number 6. Number 5 is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, this is another one that, to me, this is not as bad as what they say it is. I mostly enjoyed it, and I thought the story was pretty good. They claim it's all chopped up to buggery, and it's this and it's that, and blah blah blah. I think the story flowed along pretty well. The action sequences were good. Don't get me wrong, there were a couple of dodgy CGIs here and there, but that just seems to be par for the course because they're trying to pump them out so quick that the poor guys who do the CGI just don't have the time to get it refined as good as they can. So it's not really on them, it's just on the time constraints. As far as our main villain, Black Manta, who actually wasn't really the main villain, he was possessed. Not that I'm giving anything away here, you've seen that in the trailer. And I feel like he was done wrong in that sense, that because he was after revenge on Aquaman, and yet he didn't end up, he was just a tool more than it was him. And as someone who's a bit of a Black Manta fan, I didn't really like that interpretation of it. But I loved his suit, so he was great in it. And of course, Amber Heard, they're all talking about that. And of course, yeah, she definitely, you can definitely tell she was cut out of it because of how much she was in the first one, and they were this sort of duo-y thing. You can tell they made an effort to cut her out and get her out of most of the film. She still pops up, and I have to admit, she popped up more than I thought from what I'd heard, but still, you can tell she was cut out of a lot of it. But overall, I mostly enjoyed it, and I didn't mind it. But then I like Jason Momoa's Aquaman too, so I like that first one, and this one, it's not too bad. It's actually not too bad, and that's why it comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Now, let's be upfront, I've only seen half of it, but what I've seen, I loved it because of its quirky side. For me, there's something about this that I really like. I loved the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Such a great movie. I've seen that 4 or 5 times. I think it's so great in how it's done. It just doesn't seem to get the love that it should, I think personally. But yeah, the cartoon it's a different story to the movie. Even though we get all the people back who did the characters, they all voice all the cartoon characters, which is fantastic and gives it that bit of that continuity. But they do take it off on a different tangent than the movie, which is great. It's the same story. It's hard to say. It's like the same story but different. So it's good in that sense. You get to see something different, and they utilize the animation more so. Like they get to utilize the animation side of things better in this version of it. So even though I've only seen half of it, I'm still putting this high up on the list because of what I've seen so far. I really love, and I can't wait to watch the rest of it. So that's why that come in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Invincible Season 2. Now, full disclosure again, I've only seen half of it. I do lead a busy life, unfortunately. But I am slowly getting through it, and from what I've seen so far, it is still the great show from the first season. And if you've watched the first season, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. First season was phenomenal. Great cartoon, great story too. Um, of like this father-son relationship and how the father does wrong and the son doesn't want to be like the father and wants to change his path in life, and but everyone tells him he's going to be like his dad. And it's it's a really good drama driven story. Like I can't fault it. It's a really a great watch, especially for a cartoon, but it's very adult, that's for sure. And they don't hold back on a lot of stuff. But then that's kind of good too. It's kind of reminds me of The Boys, and I love that show so much. Same thing. They just put it all up front, and it's all just. It's kind of like what you would expect to happen, and not all of it's great. But yeah, it's a great follow up to the first season. If you haven't watched it, get your hands on it. It's such a good show, and I can't wait to watch the rest of season 2. And that's why that comes in at number 3. Okay, coming in at number 2, and it was hard to pick which one, but I've gone this way, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This was such a good movie, and it was such a great finish to the trilogy. I don't know, it just, James Gunn does it again for me. It's almost, I feel like it's probably the best out of the three. Uh, though the first one was pretty good. I don't know. I'll probably have to sit down and watch it again before I made my decision, I suppose, because I've watched the others a couple of times. I don't know. My daughter reckons it's the best one out of the three, and I kind of do agree with her. The story was great. It had the feels, it had this, it tied things up. You got to see Rocket's backstory finally. There's so many good things about it. Story arcs for everybody. Man, everything sort of ties up nicely, and yeah, what can I say? It was just, it's such a good movie, and it also gives me hope for what James Gunn's going to do with the DCEU. So very looking forward to that. But yeah, definitely one of the standouts this year, that's for sure, and that's why this come in at number 2. Okay, coming in at number 1, of course it's got to be this. I'm sure it's going to be number 1 on everyone's list, and that is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the best movie of the year by far. Just as good as the first, if not better. Great characters, and holy Jesus, how many characters did we get? There's so many. That thing is so full of Easter eggs when they're all at the Spider-Verse and you see all the different Spider-Man. If you're someone like me who's been reading Spider-Man for, oh God, 30 plus years, wasn't hard to go almost have overload trying to pick out all the Spider-Man. It was so great. And I love the fact that the 2099 Spider-Man was actually kind of the bad guy in this. He was really good. It's oh God, there's so much I can talk about, I suppose, without giving a full review. But at the end of the day, to give you the short surmise, it was just such a great movie, such a great follow-up to the first one, and left you with a cliffhanger ready for the third one. Busting to see the third one. Can't wait for that. And if they do even half as good as the last two, we're in for a great movie, and that'll be such a great trilogy to watch. And also, I love the aesthetics of it. The cartoon is like something we've never seen before. They've just really pushed the boundaries on what your average cartoon looks like. They really put the effort in, and it really pays off in the end for such a great movie. So that's why that one comes in at number 1. So there it is, my best and worst of 2023. So did I surprise you? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Or is my list just exactly like yours is? Well, let me know in the comments down below, and I'd love to read what your thoughts are on the year that was. And to all my YouTube buddies out there, as usual, I want to put you to the challenge, and I want to see your videos, your best and worst of 2023 as far as superhero cinema goes. I'm really looking forward to see what you guys put out there. Also, let's hope and pray that 2024 gives us some great movies and TV shows to watch, because really this year wasn't that great. So fingers crossed next year Oh, we get some better movies. So, if you like that and you want to see some more of my top 10 videos, click that one there. Or maybe you want to see some of my reviews. I've got you covered too. Click that one there. And of course, don't forget to do the most important thing. Throw me a like and don't forget to hit that subscription button on the way out. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you next time.